Welcome everyone, my name is Juan Carlos Gil and I am presenting to you today the 2017 vineyard tour of the ACB. We're now looking at a train going over 60 miles an hour, and behind there's a mountain. And then there is the actual city with mountains in the back as well as different bushes. Now you're going to see some houses as well as the vineyard and the trees. Now you're going to be seeing the big sculpture. You're going to be looking at the apparatus that makes the vineyard happen. Now you're going to be looking at all the grapes that are in rows of 500 if not more. You're going to be looking at more grapes. Now we're going to be looking at a house. That's right, the house that was created for the family. There's over 10 rooms, that is a mansion, and next to it there's a gazebo. The house is grayish tan, and the gazebo is tan and a green roof. There's a smaller house as well, and now there's going to be a metal building that houses everything in. And this is Juan Carlos Gil. For more information, you can go to my YouTube channel. Hope that you guys enjoyed. Please rate, subscribe, and please share. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye to the video.
We don't have the stills running right now, but we'll be able to kind of talk our way through it and let you visualize in your way what we do. The grapes, we don't have a lot of grapes growing right now. They are growing, but they're kind of small and tiny. But we'll take you into the distillery part.
Great.
So what we're going to do with your crew here, we're going to head straight across to a building over here.
Wow. Un distillery, aquí es donde destilan el vino. Wow.
All right, I'm going to try to walk you through a little bit of what we have here. Some of our history is we're a farming family. We've been in farming since the late 1800s. There's a town about an hour and a half away from here. It's called Genoa. It's up in the mountains. We had a ranch there originally. Then we wound up in Washoe Valley later on in time. We have a mansion there right next to the governor's mansion, or what's called Bowers Mansion. Last year we had some big fires. The Forest Service decided to help us out and burn bad trees and all that, and in the process they burned down houses and things too. But the ranch still made it. Then we had a ranch out in Reno in the Peckham Lane area, and there's actually streets and everything named after the Peckhams. That was one of the founding families. And then in the 1940s we came out here. This was about a 700-some acre homestead at the time, and the property was owned by Senator Douglas out of Gardnerville, Nevada. He was a senator back then. Don't know what his claim to fame was, other than senator. But the main houses they have were built from that time. They're remnants. There was a French artist named Duchamps. He used to go around, and French people, I guess, go around and make buildings back then. Now they surrender. They made these buildings. Well, we still have them. That's our main house, and we also have a guest house, and that's on the main grounds. Well, we've been farmers forever. We grow alfalfa, wheat, barley, rye, corn, all kinds of things for our customer base, and we decided, well, we want to stay viable and keep our people working. So we started a vineyard back in 2001. We have a college nearby, University of Nevada, Reno, and we went up there and talked to them about it. They came out and gave us a hand, and we have a pond up there that's about an acre and a half in size. We use that pond to water the grapes. Because one of the problems we have here in Nevada is right now we're in a drought, a very bad drought. We use the grapes, or we use the water in the pond to water the grapes. One of our main crops is alfalfa. Alfalfa uses 10 times to water a grape row. So we're not supposed to grow anything out here anyway, so we got to adapt. But we did that, and it worked pretty good. So in 2004, we expanded again, planted more grapes. We thought we're getting the hang of this, what else can we do and maybe goof up a little bit? So we decided to get into spirits. So why not? We're a farm, we grow everything. So we became what's called an estate distillery. An estate distillery means that we grow our primary grains, our corn, wheat, barley, and rye. There's only a handful of places in the world that do that. We're lucky enough to be one of them. When I travel, I go to different distilleries and wineries to see how they do things. I'm always looking for some way to take a shortcut and make it easier. Well, I found out I'm spoiled. I just walk in big circles is all I do. I can do everything here. We grow our grains. I can malt the grain here. I can mill it. I can store it. I can distill it. I do it all. And it's right here on this property, where other places I go, they outsource everywhere. And then we have, and I'll get into the refuse, because then we had another problem with that, what to do with our garbage when we're done with it. That was a whole nother problem that took like 8 minutes to figure out. So we're spoiled. So anyways, we did the grapes, we did the wines, we started distilling. We made our own little still. We used a 55-gallon stainless steel drum, and we made some distilled spirits, some glass cleaner, I think was the best way to describe some of that. But we got better. So then we decided we wanted to go bigger, and that's how this building came to be. This building is kind of styled like an Old West building. It has a rusted metal roof, we have rusted awnings, and we have lots of aged looking wood on it, on the window ledges, around the doors, and on the frames outside. And what that was for is kind of an homage to our ancestors. The wood we used is recycled from the corrals we used to have. We don't raise animals anymore. We do nothing but crops. We do have a beagle, and I think we still have a duck. It's a lot easier. So we wanted to be viable, and we started using that pond. So when we came here to start distilling, and I'll get into the stills here, we have 3 different kinds of stills that I use here. And when we use those, they use thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of water. 2 years ago during the drought, we had 17% water rights. Here we flood irrigate. And what that means is they send water down the canals, and we cement them, we're underground. We do everything we can to be efficient. But with 17%, I could keep the grapes alive and grow some sticker bushes. So we made it through it, and it happens. So then last year we had 85% water. Great year. This year, in our middle of our drought, we're in a severe flood stage. We have a local reservoir that holds 300,000 cubic feet of water. They've released that 4 times now in volume. And it comes through the back of our ranch. The lake is 30 miles away. The water keeps going for another 35 miles past us. They dug a big ditch. They had to take out part of the highway and put in culverts because of the abundance of water we have in this drought this year. We can't use it all. So they're reshipping it, and it's going out to the animal sanctuaries. They have a bird habitat out there for ducks and geese and things like that. And then, of course, it runs through us, and we get to use extra water, too. Well, when we use that water, we put up our distillery, and we got thinking, well, we're going to use thousands of gallons of water to distill, and if I just put it in my well, that's not going to do me any good. So what we do is that pond that I water the grapes with, the water from the pond is used to cool the temperatures. When you're distilling, what you're doing is you're heating up a mash that's an alcohol-based. You've made a mash, you let it ferment, and then you distill it. And by distilling it, what we do is we have a column still. What this is a big stainless steel pipe. It has a bunch of windows in it. It looks kind of weird. And it has things hanging off the side. One of them is a heater, one of them is a cooler. The heater will warm the mash up from the back, and then it'll put it in the top of this tube. And this tube is, I'm lousy with height here, it's probably 35 feet tall. And there's just a little tube going up to it that's about 1.5 inches in diameter. And what I do all day long is I feed mash through that. And we do 1 batch at a time, and you're talking 8,000 pounds of grains, and it's coming from a 4,500 gallon tank. So that's a lot of stuff there. We'll just get into it. But anyways, what happens is this mash that's got alcohol in it, it's about 25%, will fall into the pipe. And as it's falling just with the weight of gravity, it's hitting steam. We use steam heat for the distillation. So the steam is coming up from the bottom of the pipe at around 200 and some degrees. We just need about 180. But it'll turn the vapor or the liquid in there into a vapor. So that vapor is my alcohol. It's a stripping still, so it's stripping everything out. Just not the alcohol, but all kinds of nasty stuff that make your hair turn gray, as you can see. But what it'll do is it'll fall in, and it'll turn into a vapor, and it goes up, and it hits a cooler. Well, that cooler is really special because we're talking about saving water. Well, the cooler has water going through it constantly. Well, normally you would have it go down your drain, it'd go into your septic system, or I could run it out into a gray tank or a field. Well, that cooler has a copper coil in it, and it's just kind of like a curlicue. And the water from the pond goes into that curlicue. It never touches the product that we're making, and it'll cool it. And when I'm done cooling it, I take that pond water and I send it back to the pond. I just do a continuous loop, so we don't waste that water. The other thing we did is when I'm distilling on this and we're stripping everything out, we're going through thousands and thousands of pounds of grain. I can't use that grain again. I can't distill it. I can't re-ferment it anymore. I can put it out in the field to collect bugs. We're a farm, I got plenty of bugs. We can spread it out, collect mice. Again, I got plenty of mice. So we went and talked to our friends down the road. There's a cow dairy over there, dairy milk. So we talked to them about supplemental fillers. They decided to take our used mash, they use it as a supplement for the cow feed. It helps their bills, it cleans us up, and in return, we go to them and we get our manure that we put out on our fields. So they clean us up, we get kind of the it end of it, but it works out good. So back to the column. When we're using the column, what we use that for is to strip all the spirits out of the liquor. Because traditionally, they use a big copper still, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have everybody, you can touch them and feel them. And I'll just show you the differences on that. The copper still is what they traditionally use when they go up in the mountains and they throw some grain in there and water and they heat it with a match. And that's basically it. Ours is just a fancier version that runs on steam. It's all copper, it sits on a pretty little pedestal, but it's basically the same thing. When you use it exclusively, you can't produce as much at a time because it holds 600 gallons. That's solids and liquids. So if I put 600 gallons of solids in there and a little bit of liquid, I can't make a lot of alcohol at one batch. So by using the stripping still, I strip all that grain out and I have nothing but liquid. So I take 600 gallons of liquid and I put it into the pot still. The pot still is where we go to refine it. When we're doing that, there's 3 different steps. There's a heads cut, a hearts cut, and a tails cut. The heads cut is where we take off all that nasty stuff. And what we do is we turn on the heat and we start distilling. Steam starts to rise, the liquor starts to rise, so the spirits come through, they enter the cooler, they cool down, and at the very beginning they have all that bad stuff in them, but Mother Nature makes it come out first. So we throw it away. We don't have to save that, it's not good. But then it starts tasting better, it starts smelling good. That's called the heart run. That's what we want to make the liquor. So when we're running our pot still, it sits in about 9 or 10 hours to run that. And then it'll start getting sour again. The temperatures will go up and it gets stronger tasting as it just gets kind of thinner. So we do a heads cut when that happens because I don't want that sour stuff. It's too overpowering. But if I'm making like bourbons, a sour mash bourbon, sour mash whiskeys or something like that, I might save the tails and put them back to help flavor it. But other than that, we don't save them. The big companies, they sell out the tails. They're used for hand sanitizers, makeup removers, cleaners, things like that. Example is when I make vodka. We have a vodka column here too.
Nice.
And it's pretty much, it looks similar to the stripping column. It's a big copper tube and all it does is vodka. And what we use is our pot still to get the vapor going and we just redirect it into the vodka column. And it runs up and down. And on that tube, it's also like 35 feet tall. It has 5 little windows in these sections. There's 4 sections. And what happens is the vodka just goes up and down. We control it with the water temperature, and it just raises and falls, raises and falls. And there's little plates in there, and they're particulate plates. And the vodka just kind of hits it, and all the stuff we don't want falls out. So after I run at it and babysit it and hope I don't do something wrong, because we use steam heat, and I haven't used steam since I was a kid. That was back normal in my day for heating houses. You listen for noises. If it quit making noises, you ran because something was wrong. Same thing I do here, except now I got to figure out why. So, but what it does is we'll just run it over and over and over and over, and when we bring it out, it's ready for us to reduce. We have to reduce it. We do it. I have to sit outside. I go home at the end of the day. I have to get a ride to work.
Wow.
It's strong stuff. So then what we do is we have a reverse osmosis water filtration system, and we use charcoal filter and a membrane filter, and then we put it through our bottling line. We do everything. I mean, we can bottle and seal here. And we run it through it, and away we go. But that's how they work. There's also what they call a spyglass. The government requires lots of things, and they want to be able to know that you're making liquor. I think the smell in here would do that. But if they come in, there's this big eyeglass here. It's kind of like a big can with a gold top, and the liquor comes up in it and then goes back out into separate containers. And we just fill those up until I get enough to what I need, and then I'll either put them in barrels, or if we're doing gins or vodkas, they go into separate containers. We put them into a coolant tank, and then we start filtering them and bottling. We do have a lot of rules we have to abide by. For example, bourbon, everybody likes a bourbon. American laws, we have to use white oak barrels. They have to be brand new, can't use them again. They have to be heavy charred. The barrel has to be filled at 145 proof, and it has to sit for 4 years. Mandatory to be a bourbon.
Wow.
Under that, I don't even know what they call it, to be honest. I guess they'd call it a goofy whiskey. I don't know.
Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, Canadian whiskey. We make some weird whiskeys. We've done corn, wheat, barley, rye. Well, this year, years ago, back up in a little bit, we had some princes from Ethiopia come over, and they were in the royal family there. They came to Nevada to learn about our agriculture, of course, during our drought, which is their normal life over there. So they brought what's called teff. It's a little seed. It feels like a grain of sand. It's just tiny. It's horrible. It gets into everything. I'm still cleaning that stuff up. I'm a neat freak because all the stainless steel and stuff, and you got to clean it.
Yes.
So we get this teff, and they bring it in, 8,000 pounds of it, and it's red, and it's a little tiny like sand, and I think, all right, do you want us to make whiskey? We'll give it a try. So we did that this year because the crop's been grown in the valley since those folks came here and visited, and then took some of our, styles and go back there with them. So we did distill it, we did make it. In a few years, we'll see what it's like. It smelled like Campbell's tomato soup when I was making it, and it was red. It was the weirdest stuff I'd ever seen. But okay, what we're going to do here is I'm going to have everybody, however y'all like to do it. If you come forward, just take your time. About 6 feet out from you, we have 3 different stills. We have a big round one that you'll feel is a big kettle pot still. It's solid copper. That's a traditional type. The one right next to the big round copper is the vodka column. It's an also copper one, but you'll feel it has 5 windows. That's the vodka. And the stripping still over here has 4 windows on it. So feel free to come out and check it out here. I'll step outside.
Extra, ma'am. Wow.
Marty, you can feel the there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the copper one that they did for the, they do the vodka. This is the one that's about 35 feet.
Wow. This is the one. Wow.
And then, can
Wow.
you reach it, Steve? Okay, or Steven? Okay, got it, Bonnie? Yeah. Okay, so
The more cool water comes in. Then it comes in and it cools the mash down and goes back to the pond. And then when I get it down to my temperature I want, I pitch my yeast, and there's big huge blades in there that spin and they stir it up. And then I'll transfer it into these tanks over here, which are our fermenter. These are open top fermenter tanks, meaning they don't have a lid or anything. If we were over on the wine side, I can't make wine that way because it would get a bad yeast or a spore and I would destroy it. These are,
How noisy is all that you put in this well? Is it pretty noisy?
I wear hearing aids. I take them out. It's horrible.
You don't need them.
No, you don't need them. All I'm listening for is a really loud snap, and I know I got to work. But what it does, we have water running through the pipes in here. You've got the steam generators running. I got live steam all over the place. And then running out in the other room, I've got the coolers running, so you hear the water going through the pipes, going through the coolers. It's like a 100 fire extinguishers going off.
Wow.
These little dimples,
Whoa.
what they do is this is a
Butterfly.
double wall. It's got an inner wall and an outer wall and an open space in the middle. And what these do is they help channel water, cooling water. When I use my pond to cool it, if I turn it up high, the water will raise high. If I keep it low, it'll stay low, but it bounces the water all over the place to let me cool the mash or whatever I'm doing in there. Because once we put the mash in here after I've made it, I have to aerate it for a week. We have to measure the sugar content, which we call bricks, and we also monitor the pH. And it takes about a week to ferment, and then I'll transfer it to what's called the beer valve. And then we'll transfer it underground to the stripping still, so I can start the distillation. Now, these are open top, meaning that there's no lid on the bottom. Foreign yeast or a bug or, foreign whatever's in there. In the wine, it would devastate it, like that crazy butterfly. But on this, it ferments at 25% alcohol, so if I get like a wine yeast in here, it doesn't matter.
Mi esposo es dominicano.
So we don't worry about it. When I put it
¿De qué parte de Puerto Rico?
over it, and I'll heat it up to about 190 degrees with steam.
Yo tengo familia
And
en
then I'll
Villa
wash it with
Carolina.
cold water, the shock it, and just clean it. If I'm doing a regular scrubbing cleaning on it, we go ahead and we put in
Viví
some hot
muchos
water,
años en
and
Nueva
I'll
York,
add
pero ahora
citric
vivo en
acid,
Tennessee.
basically orange, lemon, and
Soy de
lime.
Miami.
boil it up in there, and we use a pump, and there's a little ball that fits inside, and it just splashes it around, and I go about my business for a couple hours, and I come back and I do my cleaning on it, and it's spotless.
The maintenance on these machines, you have a company, or do you actually do the maintenance?
We do the 99% of it. We have a guy that comes in and fixes the stainless when I goof up something. But he'll come in and fix that. For the most part, we do it. We change the valves, clean the whole 9 yards. They're not too hard to do. It's just really a gigantic salad bowl.
So if you were here whenever y'all were just doing strictly farming and you decided to get into spirits, I mean, how in the world did you learn all this process? I mean,
I go to other vineyards, go to other distilleries. I make backyard whiskey and stuff like that. We all technically don't know, but oh well. We made ours there, and nowadays the internet's made it so much easier. We didn't have this.
Oh, yeah.
I read all the time, so you're constantly studying, constantly learning. And you learn hands-on a lot of it. The distillation itself is easy. It's to keeping everything else from going sideways on you is the hard part. It's basically just heating up the alcohol, turning it into a gas, a vapor, making it turn back into a liquid, and hopefully you can drink it. But it's all those little steps in the middle, and the biggest one is having clean equipment. And like for wine, the wine we don't even bring over here, we don't let the two meet. But on the wine side, if I do screw up a wine, it's not lost. I just bring it over here, put it in one of these big containers, run it to the stills, and I make brandy out of it.
Nice.
So
Mr. Churchill
I
would
do
be
have a
pleased.
big forgiveness curve when I screw up. And then it'll go eventually after about a week, then it comes out to the stills.
Wow.
Yeah, you're good.
Wow.
Barrel is, but people, it's a gimmick.
Wow.
I know, they buy it. I know.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow.
Okay, we're gonna come in here, there's a little threshold step coming up. About a foot ahead of you, sir.
Wow.
We're never gonna fill this thing. Well, it'll hold almost 1,300 barrels. It's about 1,273 or something. Each row is 7 deep, all the way to the ceiling, which is probably 40 foot up. And in the eaves, there's 3 or 4 barrels in them. Each barrel is 53 gallons of a spirit. We don't have anything in here other than whiskeys and bourbons.
Wow.
The wood, the barrels, they're all brand new barrels. Like I was saying earlier, we cannot reuse the barrels again to age liquor in to sell. Even though the barrels are fine, there's nothing wrong with them. We have places like beer places in Reno that want them. They age beer in them. People want them for man cave stuff, putting in, they make furniture out of them. I ground them up and made wood chips for my barbecue. I did that. I've got a lifetime supply of barbecue chips. And then like I was explaining earlier, bourbon, we have certain laws we have to do, and that's why this building came about. Bourbon's got to age for 4 years, minimum, that's it. If we left them outside to do that, it would never make it that long. So we put this building up in the hopes of trying to work with Mother Nature. We can't beat her, but maybe we can help her a little bit, or she'll help us. So we don't heat or cool this at all. We let the sun do it. What we did do is we put a steam machine in here, and you might hear it hits and spitting in a minute, but it keeps it moist in here.
Okay.
So see that right there? Yeah, the barrels will do their expansion and contraction, and that's how they pick up their flavors and their colors. The other thing that happens is some of them will start leaking, and you can smell the alcohol in the air. You smell the alcohol, you smell cherry, vanilla, maybe spice,
Yes.
maybe coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
See, and that's the fun part with the wood. This is where the magic happens. When I make the liquor that's in here, I'm using grains. They were teff or corn, wheat, barley, rye. There is no spice, there's no vanilla, none of that. This is white oak barrels, but all that smell and flavors that you get, the charcoals, the vanillas, the cherries, that comes from the caramelization of the wood when they burn it. That's what you're smelling. So it sits in here and it comes about. What I'll do before we go out, I'll open up one of the whiskey or the bourbon bongs down at the end and let you smell a bourbon that's it'll be ready in about 7 months. But give an idea. When you smelled remember those of you that came into the room over there and smelled that silver container? That was what that bourbon smells like before it goes into these barrels.
Okay.
So to give you an idea of what happens, that smell versus
Okay.
the barrel smell.
Okay.
How do you get the barrels from the top?
What we did is there's specialty equipment you can get for distilleries. And you know, for a distillery, if I was to buy a hammer that said distillery on it, it's like the government, it's $800. So what we do is we go around to different places, look how they do it, and you look in the catalog, all these neat things you want that we're not gonna spend that much money on. We're farmers. We can build that. So we look at the picture, take it over to one of the guys and say, all right, and after he's done yelling bad things at me, he'll build it for me. And it hooks onto our forklift, but it'll hold 2 barrels at a time. When we put these barrels in, we have to roll them in. These barrels are 7 deep, so they're 14, we'll say about 15 feet in. Each barrel has to sit at a specific geometry type angle because it'll roll and come up in a different position. So we built this gantry, you put a rack on it, and it'll lift the barrels up, and I can roll the barrels by hand to set the angle. And then we used a forklift, and one of my younger guys who doesn't know any better and he doesn't have a neck, and we roll these in there. Usually, because we have back in high school we took geometry. I took geometry in high school and said I was going to use it all my life. They lied. College, same thing. You're going to use this all your life. They lied. I'm a retired cop. I never used it. We didn't try it. So, what we did is I drew this thing up, and then I had to teach them north, south, east, and west. I was a Boy Scout. That's one of the first things you learn. So I taught them north, south, east, and west. I thought I did. That didn't work. So we concentrated the way the building is oriented with the barrels. There's a south side with the barrels and a north side with the barrels. I figured that'll be easy. So I just said left and right. Well, they took my paper, left and right, because each side wall is a little different, and they turned around. Messed that all up. So now what we do is I have going away from town side and a going to town side. Where it's awesome. But then the other thing we have is the barrel. Somebody's asking what we do with them. We cut some up, we get rid of them, we do it. Scotland, okay, we have our laws, 145 proof in a barrel. White oak barrel, brand spanking new, has to be X amount of ingredients, has to be 51% corn. Scotland has a similar set of laws. They require used bourbon barrels. So they'll most likely buy ours. They buy a lot of American barrels. They prefer the American barrels. So next time you drink a scotch, remember, the only reason it's any good is because my bourbon was in it first. But anyways, this is our tour. We're going to take over, do some tasting, but I'm going to pop that bung down at the end and let you all smell it. Yes, ma'am?
Because you all are not allowed to reuse the barrels.
No, we cannot reuse these barrels. When we're in we also have a small still to give you an idea. It's a 5-gallon one when we work recipes. So if I screw it up, it's only 5 gallons. But we use these little small kegs. They're small white oak kegs. They're a couple liter size, just small. And we can use those 4 or 5 times to get an idea of what the alcohol is going to taste like in a shorter period of time. But when we're done with them, when they don't have much flavor, we don't throw them away. I take them home and I grind up like jalapenos or serranos or cayenne peppers, and you just step them in there with a little vinegar and throw it out in the closet or the garage for about 8 months, and then open it. That's the best hot sauce you're ever going to get. You can do the same thing with these barrels. That's how McHenry's, not Tapatio, what is the hot sauce I'm looking for? Oh, doggone it, I can't think of it. It's in every restaurant in America. There's a red bottle and a green bottle. Tabasco, thank you. These are the barrels they make Tabasco in. They fill these up, they use old booze barrels, they fill them up with the puree, just ground chilies. They grow a special chili. Then they put the lid on it and they cover it with salt and they forget about it for years. And that's what they do. Let me grab that bung and I'll let you smell that as we go by, and then we're going to go over the tasting room and let you try some of this neat stuff.
Okay.
It's grown, produced, and bottled here on the farm. It's our sweetest white wine. It's not sweet compared to most sweet wines on the market. It's about 2% residual sugar. It's a 750 milliliter bottle, $14 to purchase. Somebody had one question about where we sell our wines. So they are available for purchase here. Also like Total Wine, Bins, a lot of the grocery stores in Reno or Sparks area, Carson.
What's the price?
$14.
$14. Okay, a bottle. Okay. And do you have another? Is it only wines or other things you guys
No,
sell
we're
here?
going to try 4 different wines,
Okay.
3 whites and a red, and then we have a vodka that we make here.
Ooh.
We have, yep. We have a gin that we're gonna try.
Oh yes, I'll do the gin.
We have a barrel-aged gin. We have a brandy, been aged 5 years in a barrel, and we also have an absinthe.
What's the percentage of the alcohol? Does it vary, or is it roughly the same?
Yeah, the vodka's 40, gins are 45, absinthe is 60. Summer wine, obviously it's kind of refreshing. Goes well with like fish, chicken, lighter dishes. The Gewürztraminer goes really well with chicken, turkey. We always recommend a Gewürztraminer around Thanksgiving because it pairs well with turkey.
Con pavo, dicen.
The next one she's pouring is a Chardonnay Semillon.
Sí.
It's a dry white, so it won't have the sweetness of the first two. It's a blend between Chardonnay and Semillon grapes. Chardonnay goes through malactic fermentation, which kind of gives it a buttery mouthfeel. They always describe Chardonnay as buttery. We grow Chardonnay and Semillon, so it's
Ambos.
produced in bottled here. We don't have enough of either one.
Pero el segundo está bueno.
Separately and have two separate wines. And the Semillon has like a crisp lemon finish. So we kind of like that blend where you get a little bit of buttery and then you get a nice finish on the end. That bottle sells for $20 a bottle.
Wow.
La primera 14 y el segundo ¿cuánto costaba?
16.
Mira atrás que bello eso. Se ve bien bonito.
Some of the red wines, we don't have a long enough growing season for Merlot grapes here in our particular area. So we do source some of the grapes from Lodi or Napa, and we bring them into Fallon and still produce the wines here. So these aren't grown here, but it's produced in bulk here. Now, where is this grown from? The grapes? Yeah. These are from Lodi, actually? Lodi, California. And Ashley, what would you pair the Merlot with?
Porque sí.
Ashley, what would you pair the Merlot with?
Fish. Yep. Yep.
Did you guys see that?
Yep. Yeah. Could you say it again? So.
Yeah, so it'd be good to pair with like a heavier chicken dish like chicken Alfredo or a steak with potato or barbecue or something like that.
Cool.
We use corn, wheat, rye, and barley in our vodka. It's a 4-grain vodka.
Y aquí vamos a salir
bien
felices.
Ajá.
It's a little
Bien
bit
felices.
different in our opinion than most
Contentos,
vodkas.
Ajá.
Here, if you'd like
Oh,
to
wow.
pass that around
We
and
wanted ours to be a little different.
¿Qué es
so
eso,
we do
negra?
start the distillation
Es
process
el maíz.
El maíz.
converting sugar.
Y huele rico.
this is what the vodka, yes, the vodka.
Wow.
Y esto,
So somebody asked what we do with the grains after we get the sugars and the alcohol out of them. So once the grains make it to the bottom of the continuous still they talked about in the other room, they're pumped underground, they go into a separator.
Oh yes.
The solids and the liquids are separated.
I'm not gonna say no.
The solids go
Okay,
to the
okay.
dairy next door and get dairy cows at ration. The liquids, we use some of the liquids in the next day's
fuerte.
batch when we're making bourbon to sour the mash for sour mash bourbon or sour mash whiskey. The rest of the liquids are sent underground into our irrigation system. We have alkali soils in the area, and we're always using acid fertilizers to help remediate the salt and sodium problem we have. The liquid coming off the still that's separated has a pH of about 3.25, so it's a way to get rid of the waste from the distillery and benefit our fields and not incur costs. Here on the farm, we use coriander, angelica root, cardamom pod, lemon peel, orange peel, and sagebrush. Okay. Our brandy is a VSOP, which stands for Very Special Old Pale. It means it's been aged in oak barrel at least 5 years.
Okay.
It sells for $25 a bottle. We've only been producing spirits under a license for 2.5 years. The reason we have a 5-year aged brandy is because back in after the winery started, we produced our first wines. Colby and his father made a homemade still and started distilling wine experimentally. And then the state of Nevada was able to give us an experimental distillation license and told us that there was no regulations or laws governing the production or distribution of spirits in Nevada because nobody had ever built a distillery.
Oh
They
God.
gave us an experimental license. We were allowed to distill it, age it, taste it, but not sell it or distribute it. By the time they started petitioning the state of Nevada. By the time we got laws put in place that allowed the distillery to be built and govern the distribution regulation of it, that brandy had been in the barrel aging for 5 years. Somebody figured out if you took copper salts and added them to the spirit, it turned it a bright green right away, and they could market it right away. Well, then they figured out later that copper salts cause hallucinations. So, yeah, I'm not sure. So it is 120 proof in the bottle. We do put it on a little bit of ice in the cup. You can try it right away if you want. It'll be a little strong. After it sits for a couple minutes, it does what's called lounging. So it's a clear green in the cup when we first pour it. And as the ice dissolves and dilutes the alcohol content, the oil can't stay dissolved anymore. So it comes out of being dissolved and turns it cloudy.
Oh wow.
Also opens up the taste and smooths it out a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It is made with 2 types of wormwood, Artemisia absinthium, Artemisia pontica. It has
Kind of nice.
star anise, green anise seed, has fennel, has spearmint, melissa, hyssop, and fresh lemon peel to finish it off. So it does have kind of a black licorice type flavor. It's a digestive.
Say it again. Say it again.
And how we do it. Would like to see y'all come back out again.
On behalf of what?
Huh? I'm Andy. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Andy. Andy. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. I love it out here. That's the good part. It's a good family. It's a lot of fun. I love it. It's great. That's good. It's wonderful. I agree. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, what we did, I wanted to let everybody know, I've got the bus out front. We just put it right out the front door so we don't have to wander y'all around. And thank you very much. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to say we got probably about 15 of us that are here at any given time. But it depends where we're at in our cycle of farming. We get drivers for a lot of our trucks and our tractors. And we also work in different valleys around the community where we go around. So we can fluctuate upwards of 30 people. Really? I try, but it's a fun job. That's the best part. It's a fun job. Yes. Just depends. Sometimes when the sun comes up and we're here long after it goes down. Just depends what happens. Yeah, we do farming stuff too. Yep, we do it all.
So what do you do with this?
No, I'm pretty much the distiller. I do the distilling and I help out wherever else I'm needed. Living on the farm, there's
You just got to see a Juan Gil production video sponsored by the American Council of the Blind 2017 National Convention held in Sparks, Nevada. And we would like to say thanks to Ferry Wineries Farms. For more information, you could go to acb.org as well as Winery Farms. And thanks so much for watching this great video. My name is Juan Carlos Gil. You can go to www.youtube.com to watch more videos. Thanks so very much for watching, and thank you for the ACB in sponsoring this as well as Ferry Farms. Thanks so much. Take care. See you next one. Bye bye.
Well, thank you.
It was nice meeting you.